we go down here, this is an unusual one that you probably haven't heard of.
Inga.
It takes a little while to get going, but you can see that it's now coming through.
Yep.
Once they get going, they're actually super vigorous, and the problem reverses in that you've got to contain the thing.
Yeah.
Now, what this does, this is in the Fabaceae, or the former Leguminosae, and so it's got root nodules for nitrogen fixing, and it also mycorrhizas. So it actually sort of not only looks after itself in terms of fertilisation, but it also fertilises a lot of the soil around it. So in many areas, they're grown to actually fertilise for other things.
Yep.
They produce a pod about that long. There's about 50 edibles. There's 300 species in the genus, and about 50 of them are all edible. Most of them are not brilliant. Inga edulis is the one that is the best.
Yep.
It's the long, skinny sort of thing. It's about that long. And what you have is white flesh surrounding the seeds, and it's the flesh or the pulp that you eat.
That's it, yep.
The nurseries get this wrong all the time because they don't know this plant. They name everything Inga edulis.
Yep.
Edulis for eating. When you can, I've done quite a lot of research on this, and almost all of them are not edulis.
Right.
They're anything but.
Yep.
So this one's edulis.
So do you know which variety it is that you commonly find with the purple growth or the burgundy growth on it? Do you know just the common Inga that you find? Do you know, is that all different species?
Well, you mean young growth?
Yeah.
Quite often with plants, when you get young foliage, they'll be, see over there, you've got bronze young leaves which then sort of mature off to that green.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, honestly, it's there's so many of them. You've got to actually go through the taxonomy.
Right.
The taxonomic keys to actually know what you're talking about and sort through all the confusion.
Right, gotcha.
I don't know, we didn't talk about this one last time.
No, I've run out of time.
Plum. You can see this serves dual purpose as my green hedge to keep people away from my mangoes, etc., while also producing a fruit. It's a little red fruit about this big.
Yep.
Beautiful little star flowers, and you can see they benefit from cross-pollination. So this particular one, I deliberately went out of my way to get ones that were different sort of varieties.
Yep.
And so this particular one it's not as if it's going to kill you or anything, but it's sufficient to sort of put you off just trying to walk
deterrent,
through.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's the flower.
Okay, that's
they're
Carissa.
Quite nice, and they're quite fragrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's more here.
And this is Carissa.
That's Carissa.
Yeah, that's all.
Macrocarpa.
So the landscapers plant this everywhere, not knowing that it's an edible, nice plum-producing species.
Yeah. Well, they probably, and they might go for years without getting any fruit, and that's why that perpetuates that sort of belief that they don't produce anything. Like all fruit trees, you have to flip them out of this vegetative mode if they're worth sort of cultivating, and get them to put most of their energy. It's called plant management. If you just put it in and it sort of dictates the whole thing, then you're not going to get there.
Right.
This is my standard pomegranate.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing new. This is wonderful. That's the American sort of cultivar. Still sort of coming through. This is one of my other varieties of Carissa.
Yeah.
Actually, look, here's a little. Oh no.
Little fruit.
Yeah, there's a little baby fruit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right out of sync.
Yeah.
Some of these things will, with our climate and their sort of genetic makeup, they will do multiple fruiting throughout the year. Now this is an unusual one.
This is really cool.
This is called Pachira glabra.
Yep.
Now the nurseries, again, because they don't know too much about it, they get this wrong almost all the time.
Yep.
This is glabra, and one of the ways, the other big one they keep calling them all the time is Pachira aquaticum, Malabar chestnut.
Yep.
Glabra has got, even when it gets more mature, it still remains with a green trunk.
Right.
And the pods here are, so they get to about that size. They remain green even when they're ripe. The way that I pick them is that I wait for them to fall. So I go around most days and sort of pick my fruit, what I've got for the day.
Yep.
They have sort of nuts that are about that big, hazelnut size with a bit of fluff around them. One thing, these things grow in lots of sort of developing world countries. where they don't have too many options about what they can eat and can't eat.
Yep.
And they're slowly poisoning themselves without knowing it, because there are nasties, anti-nutrient type substances in here, and it's not enough to just boil it to sort of get rid of that. You have to actually fry them.
Right.
You know, there's a whole millions of people out there that are sort of not doing the right thing, or because they don't know.
But you're happy to keep growing it, even though
you get a lot of stuff.
Right.
I mean, the flowers are beautiful. I get people stop driving past and say, "What is that thing?" And you can see that, despite my heavy-handed dolomite sort of round this year, that this one copes in its stride. It's a very tough plant.
Yep.
So, you know, very, very good. I'm happy to sort of keep it. It's probably on the contract staff as opposed to probationary,
Right.
as opposed to those that have been given their marching orders.
Yep.
This is Kai apple. This is from Africa, and you can see these massive thorns. So, like Carissa, it's serving as a green fence. In Africa, they call these elephant fences. So over there, they don't have too much money.
Yep.
But they've got to keep the wildlife out of their sort of backyard garden zones. So these things will stop just about anything.
Yep. And the Latin for this one?
The Latin is this is Dovialis caffra.
Yep. Okay.
It's in the Sacchariaceae.
Yep.
So very unusual. Now these are dioecious, and they have a propensity, the seedlings, to produce many more males than females. So when I was able to get hold of some, I got 6 seedlings. And sure enough, I was lucky. This is the one female, and I got 5 males.
Yep.
Right, so my philosophy is I'm not giving space over to males. So what I did was, that's another one that went in the same time. That was a male.
Yep.
And I decided I need to fill this space in.
Grafted
And so this is another male that I got, and you can see that I've just grafted from that female plant, and they're just starting to take. So I will rework the whole of that plant so that it's female, and I'll leave one male. The fruit is like an apricot. It's about that big, and you wait until it falls, and then you take it into the kitchen and wait until it sort of goes super soft. And my variety is very, very nice. Some of them, because they're seedlings, there's variation. Some of them aren't too crash hot.
Right. And where's this planted around? So this is African plant then?
It's an African plant.
Right.
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kai apple. Now this one is, and you can see again, I keep apologising, but you can see, if you look up higher, you can see the plant's coming through, but I've given it a good sort of shot.
Yep.
This is called Lacucha, monkey jack, money jack. It's a relative of the jackfruit. Produces a smaller fruit. It's not the big ones in the wheelbarrow that you may have seen pictures of. The biggest fruit in the world is jackfruit. These are smaller, very, very similar fruit. If you look, let me just find some for you.
Yeah, there's some here.
They're monoecious. Yeah. And so you have both male and female on the one plant. The greeny ones are the female, and there's some orange ones. There's an orange one up there. There's the male. All right, so if you just sort of get in there somewhere, and so they're much smaller. That's good enough. And so you get a fruit about this big, and you just like the jackfruit, when they're very, very immature, you've got green bumpy skin. This is the same. It's green when it's immature, and then it sort of yellows up as it sort of gets ripe. And it doesn't have the same sort of latex as you have in jackfruit. That's a big problem with jackfruit.
And this is cropped already, has it?
That's cropped.
Yep.
Although it's not going to do much for me this year.
No.
I've just got a couple of standard guavas. You can see the fruit here. This is a white flesh one. This finishes up. This is a big one. And that's why it went in, even though I had another red fleshed guava. This one finishes up about that side, and it's got low seed count. So you can see, I mean, the guavas, they're very prolific. And I mentioned that for the cherry guavas. You know, all the Psidiums, they're very, very good. This is an unusual one that most people wouldn't know. It's called Ambarella, Spondius cythera. This is still a baby, but you can see it's going like a rocket. This is a seedling, so usually if you have a sort of vegetatively propagated plant, it'll take only half the time of a seedling to sort of get into fruit bearing. And that's what you want, you're as fast as possible, even though it's going to be some years, some longer than others. So this one still hasn't even flowered, but maybe next season, hold my fingers.
And what's the fruit like with this, and how's it used?
It's a sort of a yellow skinned fruit with seed, and the seed's got flesh in it. So like a mango, when you sort of pull the seed out, it's not like a freestone plum or something where the seed just pops out totally sort of easily removed without any connection to the flesh. This one is still connected. So the trick is for that is that you eat it a little bit sort of earlier than otherwise, when those fibers coming out of the seed haven't really toughened up. You can still sort of process the thing and cook it and so on in that mode, but I prefer to eat them, you know, when it's you can actually just suck the seed away from the flesh.
Yep, and it's all found around the world as well. Like, where's its natural environment?
Where does it come from? Amberella? I can't just put my finger on the moment.
Yeah.
What I've seen up in the tropics is that there's a dwarf form, which unfortunately I couldn't get my hands on before this one went in, but I've seen them fruiting at this high, and they're very prolific, you know, quite a big load.
Right.
This is my tamarind, so it's in the Fabaceae.
Yep.
This thing, you can see I've sort of done it's a sort of a minor ring barking without killing the fruit. It's very, very thin, and that can sometimes induce fruiting plants to actually flips them into fruiting mode, because what happens is if you cut that little sort of strip there, all of the photosynthate, the energies which normally sort of come down and are stored in the roots and the trunk and so on, it stops it going past that line for some time. You can't actually ring bark the thing or you'll kill the tree. And so what that does is it builds up the reserve, the energy reserve, in these sort of leafy sort of parts, where then you can flip the plant hormones over to it actually sort of starting to fruit. Unfortunately, this thing still, I've seen tamarinds smaller than this which are fruiting. So this is a seedling. There are named varieties. There are two types. Basically, the two broad types are sweet and sour. I like the sweet ones, whereas the sour are used more in cooking and so on.